I wanted to make this video to show you some of the stuff that used to be available for old Evo Sportsters. I remember seeing this back in 1990. Sputh Engineering. They don't sell this anymore now. I'm not saying. I got this off the way back machine because I wanted to see if my memory was serving correct. Yeah, they did have a 1400 cc cylinder kit bolt on. Well, actually, I think in this case, that would not fit. The spigots would not fit the cases. You'd have to take the engine out and have the case bored. But it worked with the stock flywheels, and it wasn't stroker or nothing like that. They also, like here, they're saying Sputh Engineering had been this is on a way back machine now, but I don't know what it says now. But they say they were manufacturing aluminum cylinders with cast-in sleeves for Harley Davidsons since 1977, 7 years before Harley themselves. You know, just like anything with Harley Davidson, pretty much. Even the supposedly factory customs they started coming out with back in the 80s and stuff. All that stuff was being done in the custom world. They're putting the fat tires in the front in the custom world, the skinny tires with the 21-inch wheel. That was going on forever. They were doing the fat tires in the front. Usually they use a rear tire in the front, and they'd have to flip it around because with the rear tires in the front, the rotation, you got to put it backwards, basically. All that stuff was being done. But pretty much everything mechanically, it was being done. I remember S&S back in the 80s, basically when there was really no Evos around, they were brand new. Everybody had shovel heads. The hot setup was the S&S 93-inch stroker, which with the Sidewinder, an S&S 93-inch stroker on a lightweight rigid frame, and your bike would be weighing like under 500 pounds, so you'd have the big twin, but basically in the Sportster range weight. But some of these Sportsters, man, I don't know why this stuff it was being sold, I guess, in the race circuits or something. I know right now Hammer Performance and S&S has a 1250 kit bolt-in. Hammer Performance has a 1275 kit for the old Evo Sportsters. But this was on NRHS Performance, which they don't sell any of this stuff anymore. But they were selling 1250 kits. Now S&S still sells 1250 kits. But they're selling 1250 kits with either aluminum with the steel sleeve cylinder, or even all steel, the whole cylinder being not just iron lined aluminum cylinders, but they were all steel, like the old school shit, right? Now here, this is the 88-inch. Now I always said this was already done. This was done, I don't know, early 90s or something like that. Now this was, you had to stroke it too. I mean, I think they had the wrist pin for the piston was high up in the piston. Maybe you didn't have to stroke it, but there was something different. Well, I think you can use, you would use stock height cylinders. That's what it was. And the wrist pin was higher up in the piston. I think that's how it worked with this thing. But this thing you'd have to take, it wasn't just like doing a top end job. You'd have to take the engine out and have the cases bored. It was stroked and everything. This 88-inch kit, and there's absolutely no reason why Harley Davidson today can't bring back the Sportster, and why not go to an 88-inch? Why not do that? Why not have this? And you don't need no 6 speeds and all this crap. They went to 6 speeds. Why not have a 5? Because the torque curve, the peak horsepower rating, that's just, you got to look at what the horsepower is through the power band. Harleys make a lot of the horsepower steady all through the power band. That's like torque, right? Peak horsepower is one thing. Everybody looks at that, but they don't look at where it sits through the whole power band. Harleys, you get them down, they could be down like 2,500 RPM, 3,000 RPM, and they're pulling hard all the way up to 6,500, No problem. Well, in a Sportster case, right? Other bikes will tell you, they're not making any power under 4,000 RPM. A lot of these Jap bikes and stuff. And it's like it's almost like you got an automatic transmission. You don't need all these freaking gears because on my old 4-speed 89 Sportster, I mean, once I dump it in fourth gear at 45 miles an hour, that's it. It's like, 45 to 85, that's the same gear. It works fine. It doesn't rev too high when I'm up at 80 or nothing. It's fine. It's fine. But if they brought this back, if they brought the old Evo Sportster back, you know why I know they can meet emission requirements with Harley Davidson? Because if they're meeting emission requirements now with the M8, that's not an air-cooled motor. Why? I mean, they're not in a water-cooled motor. Why are they not? Why can't they do it with this? To me, I know they can. And the other thing is besides this, if they used something like, Stanley Myers was doing, even if you did this, I know the technology to break the water down into hydrogen real efficiently and run the car off the hydrogen and bike off the hydrogen. We don't have that. But, even using simplest methods, if you put a little bit of hydrogen in the gasoline mixture, the mixture, right? The air-fuel mixture, it lowers the hell out of your emission requirements. It lowers it a lot. It makes for a far more complete burn. And, the reason I know this works because, I don't know, maybe they took down all this information off the web. I don't know if it's still there or not. But even the simplest HHO hydrogen on-demand devices that you can add to a bike or a car will lower your emissions. And they're dirt cheap to put in there. And you just need like a little like add-on 1 quart water container, which give you like, I don't know, thousands of miles of freaking use. But I don't know, they always got an excuse why they can't do it. But the reality is that almost not everything, but a lot of stuff Harley developed was already developed before it was happening in the Harley Davidson factory. Like they're making this stuff, so many things that you see in stock bikes today, it was done before. Even the, when it came out with the Softail, that was a custom design that somebody made, and Harley bought the rights to it. That's what it was. And I remember when that came out, especially with the Springer Heritage Softail, man, everybody was like, holy smokes, man, it came out with something that looks classic as anything. And now it's like really old, But what's going on is nobody is hands-on anymore. There's less and less people doing this type of stuff. And I think that's why, they just want to pay, even way back in the day, I don't think anybody financed bikes. They bought something cheap and they fixed it themselves. Today, nobody really wants to do this type of stuff. This is why, it's still around. I mean, you can go to like Zippers and you can go to S&S and Hammer Performance and stuff. And Sputh Engineering still got stuff out there for Harleys big time. But they don't have this kit no more, But there used to be like all kinds of companies out there. And the reason there was all kinds of companies is because it was a different generation. Everybody now, they just want to click a button on their cell phone and, make something happen. It's not how it works. I don't know. I just got curious about this, and I says, I remember this being out back in 1990. I'm like, it's like, and I says, what? I saw one place mention it on the internet, in some forum, but you couldn't find any information. I says, what? Here it is. I found it. So, this is it. This is the 1400 kit right here. See? Right there, man. So, it's like, what happened to it, man? It's a shame. I mean, it's like, to me, that CEO, it's far worse than that guy being woke. That guy, I don't know, you got to get rid of these people in the corporations. They're garbage, man. It's like, I don't even know why I put this out on YouTube, because it's like a dead forum as far as I'm concerned. It's all propaganda, but unless for a few channels I look at. But, I'm like, the less people doing this stuff, it's going to kill all innovation. It's like somebody, you got to remember the guys that made this stuff, it's almost like everything's becoming a dying art. Today it's like, what app can you get on your cell phone or whatever? Click a freaking button. Nobody does anything else. But man, this stuff used to be around, and it used to be around a hell of a lot more. And, to me, the 90s, the early 90s is like really much, much later than the kind of stuff that was around in the 70s and the 60s. A lot more stuff, a lot more hands-on. Everybody was tearing down engines and cars and stuff and kinds of crap in their driveways. Now you never see it happen, man. You just don't see it. It's like you'll see it on, somebody makes a video on it, but you don't see the average everyday person doing this stuff anymore. So it's like a dying art. But I just want to point this out. Maybe somebody might want to my channel ain't monetized anymore. Not that I'm making no money off this stuff. But somebody might want to comment on this stuff because, it's like people who actually build something up. What happens is some BS artist gets in there and gets in charge of them, and they siphon off all the money. They make the company go broke. They cheapen everything up so they can grab bigger and bigger bonuses for themselves. They screw over all the workers. They kill all the incentive, and they walk away. But, it's almost got to come back to where these people on the top that are doing this type of stuff, it's got to come and bite them in the butt someday. And the day can't come soon enough. I'm looking at, I know people were making a lot of videos on the net about, Harley Davidson, this and that. I always said Harley Davidson is not the company. It's one aspect of Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson is everybody that rides the bikes. Harley Davidson would be nowhere without the riders. And not the fact that they just buy the parts and they buy the bikes. It's the fact that they are making this stuff better or innovating and creating new things. Like here, stuff that comes out. I remember Zippers coming out, a lot of stuff. They're really good. You're up in Maryland. They got a machine shop up there, too. They do all kinds of machine work. But here, this is from Sputh, They were saying, 7 years before Harley Davidson was, making the cast-in sleeves with aluminum cylinders. They were doing that stuff 7 years before Harley. See, Harley didn't, do all this stuff. It's like other people were doing it. And, like I said, way back, the hot setup was, it was kind of funny. I remember when the Evo came out, man, nobody liked the Evo. It was almost like the same thing when they had, I guess before my time, but when they had the Panheads. The Panheads were still around in the early days, though. But they're still kind of around. They were antiques. There were people riding them around, and in the 80s and stuff. But the Panhead, everybody when the Shovelhead, I know when the Shovelhead came out, they were saying the Panhead, it was a piece of garbage, but it was pretty much the same thing. It was just different heads on a Panhead. Then they came out with the cone style bottom end. But even the Evo is kind of like a Shovelhead too. It's just more accurate, a little bit different on the top end. But I remember when the Evo came out, everybody was saying it was, in the very, very beginning, no way, Shovelheads and Panheads, they were calling the Evo the blockhead. But then it became so reliable, everybody loved it. But now it's like really ancient antique crap practically almost now, But looking at this stuff, man, Harley, if they wanted to resurrect this Sportster again, this is what they got to do. This is what they got to do. Make the 1400 or like the 88 inch. I think that's, I don't know how many cc's that is. It's around 1450 or something like that. Around here. Something like that. But, every engineer, it's like they don't have to even do research and development. I'll guarantee you there's some people out there in the aftermarket that know how to make these pass all kinds of emission requirements easily. You know what's going on? They're trying to shove electric cars and bikes down our throats. That's what they're really trying to do. That's really what they're freaking trying to do. And there's something, I could say that the sound, well, the fact that Harley even tried to patent its sound, the motor. Um, I mean, you're not going to ever have an electric bike do that. But, the point is, these bikes, if you set your bike up right, a lot of these bikes will get over 50 miles to the gallon as it is. I mean, they get the same kind of mileage as a hybrid, a dual, like a Prius or something like that. They get the same mileage, except they're way faster, way cheaper to run and operate, way less complicated. And, they're trying to force this all electric bike crap on us. That's what I think's really going on. And you think about it, motorcycles should be they should be exempt from all this emissions requirements anyway. They're much smaller. It's not a big engine. It's not really, you only got, you know, it's only like 5 to 900 pounds. It's not like you're pulling some 3,000-4,000 pounds of weight. So I mean, I don't even know why they even have these stringent requirements for emissions and stuff. I mean, I'd say most bikes shouldn't even have emissions on it. But it's a matter of everything's about controlling people, controlling what they say, controlling what they think, and they control what you think because you know what they do? They throw so much propaganda out there for so long, and they try to normalize stuff in little increments, and all of a sudden everybody's thinking like a certain way, and if you're the one that's thinking, that's BS, you can't stick your neck out without saying something true, because the whole group will hammer you down. That's what you call democracy is, right? When a bunch of idiots freaking tell a smart person what's up, because there's more idiots than smart people. So, with this, I'm going to tell you that the way things are going, people don't get their butts in gear, we're going to lose all our freedoms, and one of the big freedoms we got is motorcycles. Or motorcycles, or whatever you want to call them, sleds, or whatever you want to call them. And there's less and less people that are really into this stuff. So me, I'm just taking care of myself. I'm hoping to be like that guy, that Chinese guy that lived to be 256 years old. He was walking 30 miles in a day when he was 250. I'll be riding my bike when I'm 250 years old. Anyway, over and out.